Storm Ingrid made landfall in the UK with powerful winds and relentless rain, striking coastal areas across southern and western England. Winds reached up to 65 miles per hour, whipping through seaside towns and causing widespread damage. Torrential rain and storm surges created dangerous sea conditions, battering infrastructure and overwhelming emergency services. In towns like Teignmouth, Devon, massive waves crashed into the coast, damaging roads, buildings, and historical structures. Communities were urged to remain indoors and avoid coastal areas, as the risk of flying debris and flash flooding remained high. The storm marked one of the most intense weather events to hit the region this winter, with authorities warning that conditions could worsen over the following days. The UK Environment Agency issued more than 140 flood alerts and nearly 150 flood warnings across England and Wales following Storm Ingrid. Areas along the western coast, particularly in Cornwall and Somerset, faced severe flooding as rivers burst their banks and water levels rose rapidly. In some locations, rainfall exceeded 50 millimeters within 24 hours, leading to submerged roads, damaged property, and emergency evacuations. Rescue teams worked through the night to assist stranded residents and reinforce flood defenses. The saturated ground, combined with continued rain, has raised serious concerns about landslides and prolonged infrastructure damage in already vulnerable communities. One of the most dramatic consequences of Storm Ingrid was the partial destruction of Teignmouth's historic Victorian pier in Devon. Violent waves fueled by the storm's intense winds tore through the wooden structure, sweeping large portions into the sea. The pier, a landmark dating back to the 19th century, stood no chance against the raw power of the storm surge. Local residents watched in shock as chunks of the beloved pier collapsed into the rising waters. The incident sparked emotional responses from the community, many of whom consider the pier a symbol of local history and identity. Cleanup crews were quickly dispatched, but officials warned of further damage if sea conditions continued to deteriorate. Just weeks before Ingrid, Storm Goretti slammed into the UK, leaving a trail of destruction across Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. The storm brought wind gusts nearing 100 miles per hour, causing severe disruptions to power grids, schools, and transport systems. Entire neighborhoods were left without electricity, while fallen trees and debris blocked roads for miles. Internet and communication outages added to the chaos, isolating residents and delaying emergency responses. Goretti was one of the strongest storms recorded this season, and its impact made the country even more vulnerable when Ingrid followed shortly after. The back-to-back storms have placed immense pressure on public services and emergency operations. The impact of the storms extends far beyond physical damage. In many towns, families are now dealing with power outages, damaged homes, and limited access to clean water. In Cornwall, some communities have been without reliable broadband or electricity for several days. Schools have closed, public transport has been suspended, and emergency shelters have opened to assist displaced families. Residents describe feeling helpless as conditions worsen. Local councils and volunteer organizations are distributing supplies, offering psychological support, and coordinating rescue efforts. The storm has become not only a weather disaster, but a humanitarian challenge for thousands affected across the nation. Meteorologists are warning that more severe weather is on the way. Forecast models show new Atlantic systems approaching the British Isles, with continued wind and rainfall expected across southern and central regions. The Met Office has issued fresh yellow warnings for strong winds and heavy rain, especially in Wales, the Midlands, and Northern Ireland. Higher ground in Scotland and northern England may see snowfall as colder air arrives. The ground remains heavily saturated, increasing the likelihood of further flooding and landslides. Authorities are urging residents to remain alert, limit travel, and follow safety guidance as the storm season shows no signs of easing. Experts are pointing to climate change as a driving factor behind the increasing intensity of UK winter storms. Warmer ocean temperatures and shifting atmospheric patterns are believed to be fueling stronger, wetter, and more frequent storm systems. Recent data shows rainfall levels in December and January well above seasonal averages, with storms like Goretti and Ingrid appearing earlier and hitting harder than in past years. Coastal erosion, repeated flooding, and infrastructure stress are expected to become more common. As the country recovers from these latest storms, scientists and policymakers are calling for long-term investment in climate resilience and emergency preparedness. Storm Ingrid has caused major disruptions across the UK's transportation networks, halting rail services, grounding flights, and closing key roadways. In the southwest, sections of coastal railway between Exeter and Plymouth were suspended after high tides and flying debris threatened the tracks. Ferry routes were cancelled due to violent sea conditions, and highways across Wales and the Midlands experienced dangerous surface flooding. Airports reported delays and cancellations as wind gusts reached unsafe levels for takeoffs. Commuters were advised to stay home, while delivery services and emergency responders faced serious delays. The storm has exposed the vulnerability of critical infrastructure to severe weather, prompting renewed debate on storm-proofing public transport systems. Beyond the storm's physical destruction, its economic toll is mounting, especially on small businesses and coastal tourism sectors. Local shops, restaurants, and inns that rely on weekend visitors have been forced to shut their doors due to flooding and power loss. In popular seaside towns, bookings were canceled, staff laid off, and recovery costs are expected to stretch tight budgets thin. Fishing fleets were unable to leave port due to rough seas, cutting off a vital source of income. Many business owners worry they won't recover before the next storm hits. The repeated weather disruptions are threatening to erase years of hard-earned progress in regions that already struggle with seasonal economic challenges.